So a
Perfect.
6-year-old and a 10-year-old. How much would you talk about? How much detail would you talk about sex with a 6-year-old in comparison to a 10-year-old in terms of what they can expect, where did babies come from, and what is sex, and that sort of stuff? What kind of details would
Well,
you?
I think this is where you would hope that the conversation could be open. So again, you're going to possibly, and I would probably present it that way. Like, I'm going to want to talk about, like with your 10-year-old, certain materials. Maybe you're wanting to talk with them about the so-called big talk, okay, or introduce that. So, of course, I don't advocate that kind of language necessarily, but I do advocate really moving in on substantial and clear conversations at certain junctures. So there is a place for that talk, but it's not one talk, and it's
Yeah.
an ongoing conversation among many. But there are certain places, like you said, menstruation for a girl, and having that breakdown and really helping them hear some of the parts and maybe look at pictures, and certainly with the boy as well, as you're describing your son, maybe the 10-year-old, really talking about this part of life. Like, how do you think baby? I mean, I might ask a question because you might want to check in, like, what does he know or what does he think? And he might be a light year ahead of you, man. I mean, he may know a lot on this subject, and you're kind of saying, I don't have to do this talk. I'm going to learn some things from him.
Yeah.
You might find it, and there is a learning experience, but he is exposed, and in our culture, also often to a fault, because it's too much information that often gets laid out, and kids don't know what to do with it necessarily, or they're not sure how this relates to them. But giving them the information and gently, like, let's figure this out, or did you know that? And have it as a conversation as opposed to a lecture.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think in the book I break down, like, the menstruation, or even talk about this particular conversation, that it is explicit, probably around that 10, 11 year. But I think initiating that conversation for a 6-year-old might be unnecessarily provocative. But speaking with him about being a boy and what does he like most about being a boy, like just that identity and what does
Yeah.
that mean to him, I think that would be important information. So I think I would, again, it's age appropriate sexual material. So, like, what is sexual for that age? It's really just seeing himself as probably a member of that club,
Yeah.
of boys. So what is, like, a boy? What do you like doing most as a boy, or what do you not like doing as a boy? And just trying to find out, or what do you sometimes feel like you're not such a good boy at? Like, you don't, what everyone thinks a boy. I think I would focus on the identity issue there, where I think
Okay.
the 10-year-old will be having secondary sexual actions occurring in his body, and I would want to help him understand those, as you said earlier when we were talking about changes, so that if there was a wet dream, that he would anticipate that this may occur, and it's about his body getting older, and that he's soon becoming able to be functioning as a man. But we're not expecting you to get married next year. He'll laugh, and you should laugh with him. Maybe he'll tell you he is getting married next year. So, but I mean, you want to keep it, that humor thing, you want to keep it in there if it, again, is in place. But if the conversation is fluid and open, because the 6-year-old would probably be dangling a little bit of the conversation and running off, or you might be playing, again, how do you have these conversations? Often, I mean, these might be sex stereotypes to some extent, but boys playing basketball are more likely to feel that he's talking about themselves than, and a girl maybe taking a walk with her dad, or one of those, I speak about having those private times with your child, so that there is space, like at the end of the night, at bedtime, like, what happened today that was great?